console version of Rust has a problem. In fact, it has a lot of problems, but we're only going to be talking about one today because I don't feel like making a 10-hour documentary. The problem that I'm referring to is the fact that there has not been a wipe in almost 5 months. That's right, the last wipe for monthly servers for the console version of Rust was back in November of 2021. This game is less than a year old, and for almost half this game's life, monthly servers have gone without a wipe. Now, if you're new to Rust or you don't really know much about game mechanics, you might think that this isn't a problem. And it's great because you have all your blueprints. You can jump into a game, a server, and you're almost instantly at tier 3, which is amazing if that's what you like to do. But it's horrible if you're a new player, if you're someone who's not as skilled, or if you like to jump servers. And this is why. So the way that Rust is designed is there's stages to it. You've got your primitive stage, then you've got sort of your tier 1, your tier 2, and your tier 3 stage. If you start off with all your blueprints unlocked, getting from primitive to tier 3 is extremely easy, especially if you're a clan. If you don't start off with all your blueprints unlocked, it's going to take a couple days. Some people can no-life it and do it in a day, but then they're going to have to sleep or take a lot of meth. It's really up to them. But do remember, there are downsides to meth use. Anyways, what I'm getting at is the fact that if you start off on a fresh wipe, it's going to take you a bit to get to the point where you can just murk people with AKs. You're going to have to go through primitive, you're going to have to go through basically running around with a shotgun, then you've got to get something like a Thompson, and finally you're going to have an AK go raiding, and life is great. Usually it takes players about 3 to 4 days to get to this point if they're really good. If you're not the best player like myself, it might take you up to a week, and if you're new to the game, it could take you the whole monthly wipe. Now, the problem is if you're starting off with all your blueprints already researched, the only thing holding you back is that tier 3 workbench. You've got a tier 1 at the outpost. You can go to the outpost, get a tier 2, run out with your clan, use that tier 2 to upgrade to a tier 3, and within a few hours, you literally have everything that you need to be running with a full kit and an AK. Once you get to a full kit and an AK or an MP5, if that's your style, you're pretty much done with the game in the sense that you can PvP with the best weapons. You're going to be able to basically eliminate anyone who's got those basic weapons. And even if you're fighting off someone with a Thompson, it's going to be a fairly easy fight if you know what you're doing. This means that essentially the first person to this can run the server for a small bit of time until everybody else gets there. Now, with monthly servers, the problem has become all these clans that are running these servers, they basically get to that full kit, that end game right away. There's no primitive, there's no tier 1, there's no tier 2 style gameplay. It just goes right to tier 3 within a couple hours of wipe. What this does is it eliminates a lot of things that are designed into the Rust system just to make the game more fun. For instance, one of the reasons that there are monuments is because that's a good area for players to collect. Rather than everybody running towards gunshots or just sitting around outposts and circle jerking, you end up with people at monuments trying to get good blueprints, trying to get good items, trying to get good gear. Early game, everybody is running these big monuments. People are running airfield, they're running launch, and when you get someone, you almost set them back to 0. It adds to the stakes of the game, and in addition to that, it gives everybody a chance to succeed. If you don't know what you're doing, you can still fight with primitive weapons because a lot of players are going to be stuck back there, especially if you're at Newbie Beach or you're at a gas station. If you're a little bit better and you got that Thompson, maybe now you've decided to make a run on the airfield. And if you've gotten to endgame already and you've got an AK or you've got an MP5, you probably don't have a full kit yet, so you're running launch. And this will happen for a few days into the wipe. And this adds a bit of excitement to the game. It adds a lot of areas that players can go to PvP naturally. And rather than everybody running towards supply crates or gunfire, it turns into everybody at these monuments where they're fighting it out. They're using the monuments strategically, and they're trying to get positions on people. It can be a lot of fun when you're playing on a monument. You get into a bit of PvP fight, and then you find someone trying to third-party their way in there. Just like a menage a trois, you don't want to be the last one in, and you definitely don't want to be the last one to come. So what's going on here is you've got all these little activities that have basically been eliminated from the gameplay. By having all of your tier 3 blueprints, all of the monuments basically become useless. If roof camping is your thing, you run the roads for a little bit, get all your gear, build up your base, and you're on the roof in a couple of hours. If your thing's raiding, you can get right to that, and that means that new players don't even get a chance to get their 2x1 and try and get a few blueprints off the wipe just before they get raided and obliterated into nothing. And if your whole thing's PvP, you just grab that AK, you grab that MP5 because you've got the blueprints, and you run out and start fighting players. This means that you end up with clans running servers faster because they can get to endgame faster. And once everybody's at endgame, what it really comes down to is it comes down to who's got the right gear, and by that I mean who's cheating, and who has the most players on their team. Even if you're cheating and you've got no recoil and all that bullshit on, you still can't beat a clan of 16 people. And this is basically what's happening now. Monthly servers are being run by clans because the clans are easily able to get to endgame because they all have the endgame blueprints. They get into the server, in a couple hours they've got to endgame, and then they're owning the server with AKs. If you're new, if you're someone who hasn't played that server before, it's no fun until the server's dead. And once the server's dead, it's a great experience if you want to try and figure out some monuments or try and figure some things out about the game. But there's still going to be a few clan members who jump in to murk you every so often. And it really sucks because you don't get any PvP experience. You don't get any experience of actually feeling like you're sort of dueling it out with players, trying to get out of that primitive, trying to get out of that T1, trying to get out of that T2 stage. And it ruins the fun that a good wipe should have. A good wipe should have a bunch of parts to it, right? You should spawn into a good wipe on, Thursday or Friday and be in your primitive stage. There's going to be a lot of people priming it out. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be fighting it out with bow and arrows, or if you really know what you're doing, you got a crossbow and you've got a nail gun. Then after that, you're going to be getting into that T1 stage where you've got your shotgun and you're going out and you're trying to duel it out with people or get the jump on someone. Maybe you find someone with a Thompson and you try and sneak up behind them. Then once you get to your T2 stage, you've got that Thompson, which is good, but it's not the best. You got to watch out for the shotguns every now and then. Someone with a nail gun might get a jump on you, especially me because my aim's complete shit. And finally, you get to that all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful Illuminati stage. And that's when you got your AK, get your MP5, you're running the server. At this point, you've got everything made and you feel like you really made it in the wipe. And there's that sense of progression, that sense of conflict, that sense of will I be able to make it this time? And when you get to T3, there's that sense of relief. If you can get to T3 in an hour, there's no sense of relief. Just like the Minutemen found out in the 1700s, just because it's for her pleasure, it doesn't mean it's pleasurable. So what you really want to do is you really want to get that sense of a wipe. You want to get that sense of progression, and you want to get it along with everybody else on the server. Because if someone's starting out ahead of you, it feels a bit off. It feels bad, especially knowing that there's all these people that are cheating. There's all these people that are just going into these huge clans. If you're a solo, if you're a duo, if you're a trio, it feels hopeless. And the fact that everybody's starting above you feels even worse. So what players are doing now is a week or so before wipe, they jump into the monthly server they're going to be on, they get all their gear, and then it's just a race to T3 once the wipe starts. I don't think that's really the way that Rust should be played, and I don't think that's what gives people the most enjoyment. So I just wanted to point out the fact it's been 5 months since there's been a wipe, and I think it's about time. The oil rig would have, in my opinion, been the perfect time to do it, but now is as good of time as ever. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I'm not going to drag this out to 8 minutes because I appreciate you and I don't have to. So until next time, peace.